Welcome to another session of Simply Ask Why on the Curiosity Channel. Your host is Ed Middich, and today's session is taken from the subject of voting and elections. Let us begin.
Hello, everyone. Today, let's talk about a time-honored American tradition. On Election Day, the nation's biggest broadcasters, CNN, Fox, and the rest, metamorphose into live sports announcers, breathlessly reporting election results as they drip, trickle, and occasionally drizzle in from precincts across the land. The catch? These results aren't certified, and they certainly aren't final. In fact, the only number that really matters is the full, verified count from every precinct, because official certification takes days or even weeks, depending on the state. So, what's the point of this frenzied reporting? Who really benefits from knowing which candidate is up by a nose at 8:23 p.m., or some governor's race is too close to call? Spoiler alert, it's mostly advertisers, news editors, and anyone who enjoys a surprise now and then. Candidates' early leads are about as meaningful as the first round of professional golf. For the least informed regarding pro golf tournaments, it is uncommon for the first round leader to win a PGA Tour tournament, with the player leading or co-leading after Thursday winning less than 10% of the time. Today's germane questions: why do we crave these premature updates? Who actually profits from the suspense? And what would happen if, instead, we all waited patiently for the real, certified results? Hold on to your horses as we explore the often absurd spectacle of early election reporting, where the drama is reminiscent of Law and Order, SVU, but the results announced that night don't really count. Let's look at the main benefits of news media reporting early and projecting winners, with the first being informing the public quickly. Early projections give the public and stakeholders an understanding of likely outcomes, helping manage expectations and facilitate the peaceful transfer of power. Long waits for official results can lead to confusion or uncertainty. Timely projections shorten that period. Rapid results after the polls close is pure entertainment. But a counterpoint: politics and governments take forever to do something, anything. Why would we expect to have the results of the most important democratic privilege on the same day? Here is another touted positive one: reducing opportunity for misinformation. In the absence of trusted media calls, rumors or false information can quickly fill the void, potentially undermining faith in the election process. Media outlets strive to make accurate projections using transparent methods to combat this perceptual risk of cheating. But yet, a counterpoint could be: the risk of deceit and manipulation in elections is not tied to the process of results release, whether through a dribble of interim updates or a single final announcement with previously concealed totals. In reality, the potential for fraud, vote manipulation, or disinformation hinges on vulnerabilities across the entire election process, from registration and voting to counting and final reporting, rather than solely on the timing or method used for announcing results. Finally, we come to the real reason that media companies are so happy with intermediate results: massive advertising revenue. Major networks like CNN, Fox News, and MSNBC generate massive advertising revenue on Election Day, often reaching tens of millions of dollars for that period. Not quite Super Bowl revenue, but significant in its own regard. In the months leading up to and including major election events, these networks report monthly ad revenues in excess of $200 million combined, with election night itself considered one of the most lucrative single nights for live TV advertising due to massive spikes in viewership. These networks regularly accumulate tens of millions, and sometimes over $100 million in advertising revenue around Election Day, with that period ranking among the highest grossing in the news broadcasting calendar. According to the New York Times, advertisers flock to these networks because the audience for live, immediate election results is exceptionally high. Up to 80% of U.S. adults tracked election night coverage in some recent elections. Returning to reporting content itself, let's answer the question: are projections ever wrong? On election night in 1948, many newspapers and broadcasters prematurely called the presidential race for Thomas Dewey over Harry Truman. The Chicago Daily Tribune famously printed the headline, "Dewey defeats Truman," only for Truman to ultimately win. Early network projections were similarly off track, with commentators remaining confident in Dewey's victory well into the night. In 1960, early TV projections gave California to Kennedy. Once absentee ballots were included, Nixon had won the state, although Kennedy still became president. In the 2000 U.S. presidential election, major networks first called Florida and the presidency for Al Gore, then retracted the call, then called it for George W. Bush, only to retract it again, as the true outcome remained in doubt for weeks due to recounts and legal battles. This sequence exposed the vulnerability of media models and over-reliance on incomplete data. Those are three prominent examples of why you would not watch the big news stations with the small chance to inadvertently falsify election results, although such bogus projections are rare indeed. But what value are you getting? An early projection just reveals which candidate or ballot initiative won a few hours before the non-certified poll count arrives. That is it. And for that privilege, media stations have made millions and millions of dollars. Now, let's delve into a little more depth of the network's cannot lose threshold. Networks wait until it is mathematically impossible, based on the number and sway of uncounted votes, for the trailing candidate to catch up, even if not all ballots are counted. This inflection point, or when a candidate cannot lose, is carefully modeled with vote projections, often flagged internally before the public call goes out. For example, decision desks may identify a victory as early as 7 p.m. based on trends, but do not announce it until all competitive variables are resolved. The official projection is only made when the likelihood of reversal is below 0.5%, or stricter for some networks, ensuring reliability, but sometimes resulting in a gap between cannot lose and winner projected. The first network to call a race achieves a prestigious moment. ABC, NBC, CNN, Fox, and CBS all compete to be first but accurate, and they spend millions on election data teams. People want updates before markets open the next morning. Campaigns need them, governments need them, societies need them, gambling platforms need them. Yes, as of late 2025, betting on U.S. election outcomes is legal on a limited number of regulated gambling platforms, for example, Kalshi, due to recent court decisions. But the landscape is actively changing, and future legal challenges could reverse this status. Now, what does polling have to do with all of this? In the United States, exit polling is allowed, but there are strict rules governing when exit poll results can be announced on Election Day. Media organizations and pollsters operate under a strict embargo, preventing them from releasing any exit poll data before 5 p.m. Eastern Time, which is often before many polls close in the eastern states, but before some western states have closed theirs. So, while exit polls are conducted throughout Election Day in the U.S., the announcement of their results, or any projections based on them before polls close in a given state, is prohibited by media self-regulation and restrictive agreements, ensuring that early results don't affect ongoing voting. What happens in the rest of the world? France, Italy, Singapore, South Africa, the Czech Republic, Bangladesh, Romania, and Ukraine all have significant legal restrictions on announcing interim election results, similar to the United States. In fact, roughly 15% of countries worldwide have some form of an outright ban, and close to half impose delays until the polls close. The remaining 85% of countries have looser restrictions, with the intent of displaying transparency while facilitating the bandwagon effect on undecided voters. So, as we wrap up this session, when you next exercise your right to vote, run right home and participate in America's favorite pastime on Election Day, and reward your favorite station by watching the election results dribble in. However, remember that nothing is final until a certified fat lady is singing. I hope you found this session interesting, and I look forward to reading your comments in the section below the video. Or email your comments at mytych@gmail.com. Thank you for your support and participation. Until next time, stay well, stay blessed, and stay curious. So long.
Thank you for attending another session of Simply Ask Why on the Curiosity Channel. Don't forget to leave a comment or suggest a why topic. Also, if you know anyone who would enjoy these, please send them the link included on the next slide. Thank you.